First, upload the SVG to Cricut Design Space. The SVG contains both the card and the base. Then, add the SVG to your canvas. And the first step is always to ungroup. Now, I am going to group all the pieces of the unicorn together for now, and then just hide that. So we're going to focus on the base first. There are two different bases you can use. The first one has the outer cover just a little bit bigger, so you can see there, that's how it would look when it opens. And I prefer this look. However, you will have a tiny little bit of space between the cover and the inside. The paper can't be folded completely shut or completely open because of the two pieces of paper being glued together. And if you're going to use this style, then you need to change the two cut lines, shown right over there, to score lines. And then click on the layer and attach each one. And now those two pieces would be ready to cut out if you're using that style. The other style is a white base with colored paper, or any color of paper if you want, on the front in these two pieces. So to use this one, just change this one basic cut line to a score line, attach it, and that one's ready to cut out. And you could also just cut one piece of white paper to use as the base too. I prefer to have a little more color than that though. And each one of these pieces is made so that you can cut it from a single 8x10 piece of paper. Go ahead and cut and score whichever ones you wanted to use. To make this version of the base, use your bone folder to burnish over the score lines for both the inside and the outside of the card. Then glue the inside to the outside. If you're using the other version of the base, use your bone folder to burnish along the score line. Glue the colored paper on the front and back of the white base. And now the base is ready for the next step. Now we'll cut out the unicorn horn and flowers and all the pieces for the inside. And remember, I grouped that all together when I was doing the envelope, so I'll just ungroup that now. And we have quite a few different pieces. You can see here we have all the flowers, which are many different colors. We have the different pieces of hair, which are the 6 colors of the rainbow. This piece is the kind of second crown on the forehead, and this line needs to be turned to a score line. And then attached to the piece below it. So there we have one piece, and you can see the flowers will be glued on top of it. We have the 2 eyelashes, the ears, the base piece for the horn, and again, this line right here needs to be turned into a score line and also attached. So here we have the horn base, which I always cut out of the same color of cardstock, usually white, with the ears and the flower crown base. Down here we have the horn, and again that needs to be changed to a score line and attached. So you can see here that the unicorn horn is not symmetric. So you don't want to try to just fold it without being very careful where it goes. And I will give you a couple tips on how to do that when I show you how to put the whole card together. So now it is ready to cut out. However, if you try to cut it out like this, you'll have a whole lot of mats because all the flowers, the different shades of flowers, the horn, the hair, 16 different mats. So what I prefer to do is make all the flowers gray and then cut them out. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So my trick for cutting out the flowers is to duplicate the ones you have and then turn them into a color that is not specified. So we're just going to do dark gray here. And now all these flowers will cut out on the same mat. And first I'll arrange my scraps on the mat, and then I will put each flower on the area of the mat where the scrap is. So let me show you what I mean. So here's an example of how I'd place my scraps on the mat. So after saving it, go ahead and make a new window. And this allows you to look at your canvas in 2 different screens. So I'm going to go to my projects and of course choose the one that I just saved. And clicking on customize. Okay, so here is one. And I am just going to make it so I can see basically just the flower crown. All right, so this is what this window looks like. And then on the window that I have been working on and cutting most things from, this is where I will go to see my preview. Okay, so I'm going to work with the gray flowers. Let's zoom in to see it a little bit better. Okay, so I can see here that my 2 biggest flowers are the orange and the blue. So up here, my 2 biggest flowers are right here. So now I would put it wherever I have my orange scrap paper that I want to use. And then same with the blue one. So wherever that might be on my mat is where I would arrange it. Okay, then I can see the next biggest flowers are this red one here, this yellow one, green, purple. So that corresponds with the flowers up here. So again, I would just arrange them so I can choose what scrap of paper I want to use, wherever they might be, and just repeat the process with all the littler flowers, the small flowers down here, and that way you have full control over what your flower colors are and the accents, whatever you're working with. This method makes it so much easier to cut out the flowers. It's 1 mat instead of 12, so a lot quicker and easier. When you use this method, you want to make sure that you have a fairly new blue mat so that it's nice and sticky and that all the scrap papers adhere well to the mat. So make sure to use a brayer also. Now that we have all the pieces cut out, we're going to start the assembly. We'll start with the horn base, and it's good to know that this is not symmetrical. To ensure that you're folding along the score lines, hold it up so you can see the score line, and then on each individual rung, crease that together. It doesn't work so well if you try to fold it together all at once. It's important to do each individual line. Fold the horn base together to make sure that it is nice and flat. And you can see the lack of symmetry really well here. Now on the horn base, fold and burnish along the score lines on the bottom to create the two tabs. These two tabs are where the glue will go to hold the horn into the card base. Now we'll get the horn ready to be glued into the horn base. Again, this piece isn't symmetrical, so I find it's best to hold it and kind of bend it along the score line that you can see. It doesn't work if you just try to fold it in half. So after it's kind of bent along the score line, then you can lay it down and burnish it to make it flat. So first check to see if the horn slides into the horn base okay, if the folds are in the right place. You can tell if it's going to line up pretty well. Run a small bead of glue closer to the inside of the horn base. Just a little bit of glue on every single one. I always skip the center two because that's where it's going to fold. And I like the Beacon's 3-in-1 glue the best because it is clear. It's also like rubber cement. So you will probably get a little bit of extra glue on your horn or on the base or somewhere. But for this glue, when it dries, you can just roll it together into one little ball and remove the sticky place. Whereas some of the more wet glues, it just kind of wrinkles the cardboard or just stays there. The Beacon's glue also gives you a few seconds so you can slide that piece right into place. It doesn't adhere instantly when the two pieces of cardstock touch each other. And make sure that the horn is pressed into the base really well and it's dry before you go on to the next step. The next step is to glue the ears onto the base, both the outer ear and the inner pink ear. I found that it's easier and much more precise than trying to use my fingers and getting glue all over my fingers and still having to kind of slide everything around so it gets in the right spot. For small pieces, a reverse tweezers is definitely the way to go. The angles of the ears aren't so important. They will almost always be able to fit inside the card just fine. When both of the ears are glued to the horn base piece, we're ready for the next step. Now we'll do the center flower crown. Burnish along the score lines on the base piece before you start putting the flowers on. Then pick up each flower, put glue on the area that will be touching the tab. You can see I'm going to have these flowers kind of sticking up off the top and out from the sides. So you do not want to put glue all around each area of the flower. It just needs to be on the ones or on the paper. Oops, dropped my flower. Let's try again. Or you can just put a dot of glue on the base itself and then add your flower to that. And I'll just rub the extra glue to make that little ball and peel it off. And now I'll glue all of the other flowers in the different sizes and shades on the crown base, or sticking up slightly above it or to the sides. Let's glue on the very last flower to the middle crown. And then we'll glue the flowers onto the main horn base. So before we glue the horn and base into the center of the card, you want to complete all the decorations on the horn base. So here I am finishing the flower crown. In this version of the unicorn pop-up card, I used holographic vinyl for the horn. I just stuck it to a plain piece of printer paper and then used my Cricut to cut it out, just like normal. And it's really cool. You can't quite see from the video, but it's kind of shiny purple and blue and pink. It changes in the light. So if you don't want to get glitter all over your crafting area, that glitter shed is a real thing, then you could use vinyl like this. Now that we have all of the pieces of the card cut and assembled, it's time to put the whole thing together. So go ahead and get the base of your card, and then the horn base. And your horn base should already be fully decorated with the flower crown or anything that you want on it. This one just happens to be a plain one. It is easier to decorate it before you glue it in though. So fold your horn in half and then play around with the placement a little bit. You want to make sure that the horn is completely inside of the card, as is the ear and also any decorations. So this tab is going to be the one on the right side that's facing down. So I carefully put the glue only on the tab, and both tabs are open. Now the glue is on the tab that's down. Place it onto the paper about at the angle that you decided you'd like it at. Open up the card and make sure that the horn is exactly in the center, in the gutter of the card. So this is why I open it halfway and then close it and slide that tab all the way in. So I'm making sure it's slid right in the center there, and then hold it closed until the glue is set. And yay for the zip dry beacon glue. Don't have to hold it quite as long. Okay, let's check it out. Yep, seems to be in there, glued in there firmly. Now it's easy to glue the second tab in place. Just put the glue only on that tab again, and then simply close the card, and it's lined up perfectly. So again, just hold the card for a while until that glue is dry. Perfect. Now we have a pop-up unicorn horn. So we've glued the horn onto the base now. Here you can see that pretty holographic vinyl I used for the horn on this card. And now before we glue everything else on, just lay out everything how you think you're going to want it. The eyelashes, the hair, the crown piece. I find that sometimes I want the eyelashes closer together and more down than I think they should be. So this is why it's a good idea to lay it all out at this step, so you know where to glue the pieces in. And so now it's time to glue on the small crown. And you'll use the same method that you did with the larger base piece. Put glue only on the tab that is next to the base of the card, just one of them. Put that into place. Close the card part way, slide it all the way into the place, hold until it's dry. Open it up, and then put glue on the second tab. This time, before you close it, open up the flower crown slightly and arrange it so that the large horn is between both sides of the flower crown. I like to set the eyelashes in place again as I glue in all the hair. The different colors of the unicorn's mane can kind of get all tangled up together, so just be careful if that happens. Don't rip it apart, just kind of gently detangle it. And the very last thing we need to do is glue the eyelashes in place. Again, I'm using the reverse tweezers because it makes just working with these little pieces so much easier.